Welcome to The Real Deal, where it's all about businesses in central Massachusetts and northeastern Connecticut. And now, your host, Anthony Chabot of Chabot & Associates.
Hey everybody, and welcome to the Real Deal Business Podcast. My name is Anthony Chabot from Chabot & Associates Real Estate Group of Keller Williams. And today we are in Killingly, and we have a special guest, Rena Masson from Tunk City Revival. Welcome to the podcast, Rena.
Thank you.
So I'm going to have Rena give us a little bit more of an elaborate overview of what she does, but just a brief overview, a bunch of handcrafted arts, kids art center, and she has classes for people to teach them how to paint and all kinds of stuff like that. So it's the old Gill Shoe Barn business across from the Trinket Shop in downtown Danielson, Connecticut. And tell us a little bit more about yourself, Rena. Give us your whole introduction with your contact information and what it is that you do.
I'm the owner of Tunk City Revival here on Main Street in Danielson. We're at 100 Main Street. You can find us online on Facebook and Instagram at Tunk City Revival. That's the best way to get a hold of us. You'll see, because we post a lot of pictures of stuff that comes in the shop, and you'll get to see our class listings and our special events. So that's a good place to follow us to sort of, get the word out about everything that we do. My number is 860-382-3635, and my email is Rena, R-E-N-A, .tunkcityrevival, all one word, @gmail.com.
Okay, so one thing I think is kind of interesting is Tunk City Revival, the name itself. I heard it for years, and or maybe for probably about a year and a half before I actually got to know who you were. And I think that's an interesting background. So can you tell us a little bit about that? Can you give us an overview on that?
Yeah. So I was, I'm born and raised in northeastern Connecticut, and so we moved to Killingly in like 5th grade-ish. So like all of my childhood memories and like that making friends and all that was in Killingly. And so we lived in South Killingly, and so there's Tunk City Hill in South Killingly, and there's also this great story. When I tried to open my business, I wanted to point out why it was important that I was in Killingly. And so we tried to think of all these like names. And so then Tunk City came out as our name. And it's because, so in the 1800s, South Killingly was the jumping part of town. They had a saloon, a Grange Hall and a church. And I guess that's all you need.
On Route 6 on the way to Rhode Island?
Route 6, like
near Cook Hill Road,
Cook
Margaret
Hill
Henry
and
Road.
Halls Hill and all that.
Okay.
And so this business buys the Church of Bell as this grand gesture.
What was that part, the business?
Some business was trying to, hobnob. So he buys a bell for the church and it has a crack in it. So it never rang, and it went tunk, tunk, tunk. So they called that area Tunk City. And so I knew that story, and I liked that story, and I was like, okay. And I thought, God, did Killingly and Danielson need a revival? As a person who grew up here and like went to school here, and then went to art school and was like, I'm never coming back. And then I opened a business in town. So I thought those things were a nice, and I like that it's a curiosity factor, and people come in and want to know why, and I have the story posted on the wall in the shop so people can read it. I also have we have a great photo book of old pictures of downtown, and so I don't know.
It definitely does have a good curiosity factor, because when you hear the words, you're like, I don't know if I've ever heard the word Tunk before used, and then you're like, Tunk City Revival. So, and it's right here in Danielson, and the old Gill Shoe Barn building, which is a lot of memories for me growing up too. I grew up I lived in South Killingly also, and I went to school in Killingly all growing up and everything. And actually we used to come into this building, and I used to buy sneakers here. My mom would buy me sneakers here. So lots of great memories. What's that?
Everybody walks in and they're like, I haven't been here since back to school shopping.
Oh, yeah.
I'm like, yeah. We've put some new life in this old building. So it was built in 1932. It's one of the newer buildings on Main Street, built in 1932. So, but it's funny when little kids are like, what's that? And they'll hear a noise, and it's an old building. They make noises.
Yeah, it's a lot of square footage in this building too. Huge, actually. Do you have any idea offhand how many square feet?
The building itself, which encapsulates the Joint Off 6 storefront, which was Enchanted Jewelers myself, it's like almost 7,000 square feet. It's a big building, and I'm only in like a third of it.
I didn't realize that the Enchanted.
Yeah, it's all attached.
jewelry building was part of this building. Oh, that's
The
great.
Diamond Block building.
Diamond Block building. Actually, you know what? Somebody actually just recently, they posted on Facebook on the Killingly Historical Society about the Diamond Block and how the Diamond family, there was something to, oh, you know who it was? Enchanted Jewelry posted it about their logo.
About their logo.
Yeah, that's what it was. So
We've got
Jill
this
St.
great
Keith.
like art deco front of our building, which is funny because it was like post depression, and you wouldn't think that they would put all this money into a building. And then it was like a Sears sort of like catalog store was here at one point. And then it was Gill's Shoe Barn for like 40 years. And then I opened my business in 2014 on Center Street in Danielson, across the street from the Elks.
Right.
And I was there for almost 2 years, and we quickly outgrew that teeny little space. And I was like, I need to get to Main Street. And so it was Main Street or bust. And I went to the town hall and I got a list of every available building on Main Street, and I cold called landlords like, hey, do you want a renter?
That's great.
And I had a lot of yes, no, maybes, or don't call about that building. And so I was like, okay. And then this building had been sitting empty for almost 2 years on the market. And so I actually ran into them at a 4-H Foundation meeting, because I'm on the 4-H Foundation of Wyndham Talon 4-H Camp. And so are they. And they were like, do you want to buy a building? And I was like, oh, you're funny, but I might want to rent one. And we kind of exchanged contacts, and that's where it sort of sat. But then an opportunity arose where I got to open here on Main Street. So we've been on Main Street now 2 years. It's flown by. We're up to 110 local artists. My furthest away person is in Maine. My nearest person lives on Mechanic Street. So like when I say it's local, I mean it, which I think is super important. And I think that's what makes us a little bit different than any other like handmade shop, because we're not just handmade from a catalog, or like primitive from a magazine. Like, no, like a real person made this who's maybe your neighbor. And so I think that, there's a good story behind every item in the shop.
So let's actually talk about some of the things that you do here, because not only do you offer space to vendors, handcrafted artists, I don't know how to word that, but you also have classes for adults, you have classes for kids. Can you tell us a little bit about some of the things that you have throughout the month that's available?
Oh, definitely. So the reason we also moved to Main Street was to have a classroom space, which was awesome. So at the other shop, I tried to do a couple classes, and the problem was it was so little, I'd have to move the whole shop and then have to put it all back together to have one class. And that just wasn't convenient. So now I have a complete classroom section. So usually when people walk in the front door, they like walk in the classroom first, and I'm like, that's our classroom. And usually it's a mess, or there's like chaos happening. And I'm like, that's where the magic happens, and glitter. There's like a lot of glitter. Like that carpet is mostly glitter, and that's okay. So we offer adult like sip and paint classes, where I teach you step by step with my best inner Bob Ross to paint, a piece of artwork in about an hour. But then we also do kids parties and kids art club and special events and fundraisers. And I tell people, like, if you've seen it on Pinterest, we can probably do it, because I think our store is a nice combination of like Pinterest and Etsy. At least that's what the Huffington Post said about us, which is kind of nice. Oh, wow. But I find like everybody thinks they can be crafty until you have to sit down and be crafty. And then you're like, wow, that's a lot of stuff. Like that cute little ornament you saw cost you $40 to make. And you're like, and now I have stuff to make 15, and I wanted to make one. And that's how our classroom has been like funded with stuff. So I find that like people are willing to like, they want to do a craft project, but maybe they don't want to be invested in like the mess or the space, or, it often takes like, once it's on the dining room table, it stays there for a few days. So if you can come to an hour-long class, if you can come and drop in at an open studio, if you can come for your kid's birthday party and it has a start time and an end time, and your mother-in-law doesn't hang out for 2 hours, like that's a win-win for everybody.
So actually, let's talk about that. So what types of different classes do you offer? You have a slime class, or you used to. I don't know if you just so slime class for kids, and then you have painting classes for adults. Let's run down the list.
So we do painting classes for adults, and then so we generally offer like painting and then like a Pinterest craft. So our Pinterest craft this month, we're making sock gnomes. And so they're these cute little like gnomes, and they're made out of socks, and you fill them with rice, and they're really cute. And that's once again one of those projects. Is it difficult? No. Do you want that mess in your house? Probably not. And so come and take it as a class. And so that's been sort of my sweet point. So like during April break, we did slime, and we did tie-dye, and we did rain sticks, and we did maracas, and like that's all the things you don't want to make in your house.
You have so really people just have to go to your website and see,
yeah.
or your
Through
Facebook.
our Facebook and our Instagram, and also we have a Facebook group, which is Tunk City Kids Art Club, and that's where I put all the kids stuff that we do. And so if parents follow that, they can see all of the kids events we have coming up. And we do family fun paint nights, which I try to keep affordable. Being that I grew up in Killingly, like I know our going price range. So like the vast majority of things for sale in the shop are $20 and under. And I find that makes those people who have those items that are $20 and under make a lot of money every month from here, which is great. Because I know our demographic in our area in Killingly, and I want families to feel like you can walk in, and I want kids to feel like they can come in with their allowance and spend their money, which is awesome. Like at Mother's Day, I had a little boy with a Ziploc bag full of money, and he was able to find like 3 presents for mom, and I counted all the quarters with him. And I think that's great, and that's a good thing for our community. So I keep my class prices cheap, and I think that helps people. Like then I see you for 2 classes a month or 3 classes a month. Or you come and do a birthday party, and then you come to a class. And so I think that's just, so we're doing a family paint night for like $10 a person, and you do a mini canvas. But then mom and dad and all the kids can come. And so then it's a nice outing for like $40. And you can't go to a movie for $40. So why not do something different? So we offer those types of classes. And then we also do like private lessons. So I have my art degree from Montserrat College of Art in Beverly, Massachusetts. I graduated in 2011 with an interdisciplinary art degree with a major in sculpture. So I have a sculpture background, but I kind of looked at my art degree as this tool belt. So I know how to do lots of things. And I was a camp counselor for over 10 years at Wyndham Tallinn 4-H camp, where I was the arts and crafts coordinator amongst many other things. I've taught archery and horseback riding and fishing and drama. And so I'm very good on my feet thinking and like repurposing and working with a limited budget or whatever. So we do private lessons. So I have, like right now I have a student who's my private lesson student. We also offer like homeschool. Like I had a homeschool family last year, and the mom's like, so my kid wants to do art and I can't draw. So how do I teach this? And so, I wrote a curriculum, and he's 15 years old, and we did self-portraiture and we did still life, and then he worked into this is a kid who came in with like this little notebook with these little doodles that didn't take up the size of a quarter on page, who was now working giant by the end of because he got to blossom. And I think that was great. And mom was totally happy. And, and I just recently asked on Facebook, what do you pay for your kid to do whatever the thing is they do? How much is soccer? How much is dance? Because I didn't know how to price this. I don't have children of my own. And so everybody got back to me, which was awesome, because then I was like, oh, good. I don't feel bad about my pricing. So on average, our kids' classes are between $10 to $25, depending on supplies and materials.
Right.
And once again, that's that. Then you can come once a week, right? And so which I sort of like. And then our private lessons is sort of that within an hourly rate, or we have a private lesson deal where you can buy a class card, and so you can prepay for 5 classes, and you can come take those 5 classes whenever you're ready. Mm-hmm. So I had a mom do it this summer, and they came to a bunch of the summer stuff, and then they came to a couple of our other pop-up after schools, because on Thursday nights from 4 to 6:30, we have drop-in after school times where you can pop in, which works out good because that's when Deary's Gymnastics is super busy. Mm-hmm. So I get those siblings who don't want to be there. Mm-hmm. They can have something to do. So you can only watch your sister do so many back handsprings. Right,
you don't have to sit there and watch the kids when you could be across the street taking advantage of some creative...
Yeah, do something different, or, last year I had this 11-year-old boy who came to a bunch of them, and his mom's like, he's just not quite old enough to stay home alone. She was like, and we live in Woodstock, so it's far enough away where I can't really leave and come back and be on time. Mm. She was like, so we try to do all of our Killingly errands, when we have gymnastics, because he doesn't want to sit there for an hour, and so it was awesome. He came and made cool stuff in the studio as we do robot making and fairy house making and slime.
Oh yeah.
And, I love junk. And so I collect weird things, and weird stuff gets donated to us all the time because I have 110 artists in the shop. So a lot of them will be like, I cleaned my craft room here. I don't ever need pony beads again. Right. And so I'll take them because if I can't use them, then I offer them back out to some of my artists. Or then after that, it's then Davis Place gets a phone call because little old ladies love arts and crafts. And then the 4-H camp, and then the Boy Scouts and the Girl Scouts. And then I sort of have this filtering process for the weird things that get donated. And sometimes it's good stuff, sometimes it's strange stuff, and sometimes it just gets filed in the dumpster. But, I will take the free art supplies because then I can offer a $10 kids class. And I don't care if your kid uses 1,400 tiny beads, because there's more where that came from.
I wonder if there's some sort of a grant. Have you ever applied for that type of thing?
That's sort of what I'm looking to do. I would love to have like a nonprofit partner.
What about grant writers? Are you looking for grant writers to help you with that?
Yeah, I mean, I took a grant writing course at QVCC, and then it sort of overwhelmed me. But I think we could definitely use that for like community enrichment and art, because I find what we're doing isn't necessarily, you're not learning high art. You're having a good time and you're getting out of the house and you're doing something different. And if that means like you can open up or you can hang out, I had a mom write us a beautiful like review just recently after a class. She asked, can my 11-year-old daughter come to this class? And all of our classes are all ages friendly. I mean, they're also BYOB friendly. They're also like adult friendly, but like, if you want your 12-year-old to come with you to make a spooky fairy house, go right ahead. And they had a blast. And she was like, my daughter does not speak to anybody. She's so painfully shy. She was like, and she was chatty, and she was engaged, and she was having a good time, and she wasn't on her phone. And I was like, you're welcome. See you next week. Like, come back and have another no phone in their hand experience.
So, and you also have, you can have birthday parties for kids here. I know you mentioned that a little bit, but let's get into detail on that a little bit more. So if you want to have your kid's birthday party, tell us about that.
So for our average kid's birthday party, I charge, it's $25 to book the space, because believe it or not, we're already booked through all of November. And that kind of holds your spot, and it kind of gets parents to actually commit to a date, I found. And then it's $10 a child, so you can invite, and that's always my set rate, unless you're doing a specialty activity that costs a little bit more. But usually it's $10 a child, and that's for a paint night type of activity. We did robot making for a little boy for his birthday this August, which was super fun. We do fairy house making, which is very popular. We did like slime, where you make 2 kinds of slime for $10, and I don't know if the parents are happy about the 2 kinds of slime, but the kid was totally stoked. We did a tie-dye birthday party, and it's, once again, it's like, do that Pinteresty thing, but the mess isn't in your house. You can bring your pizza from, New York Pizza or Pizza Pizzazz or whatever, and bring your tray of cupcakes and be done with it. And like, I had one mom tell me, she was like, we were looking for a place to do my kid's party, and one place wanted $20 a child, and she wanted to invite the whole class. She was like, well, you're never getting another gift. That's cool. She goes, and another place was closer to your price range, but you had to buy their crappy pizza package. She was like, and it was like bad cardboard pizza. And she was like, and I have 2 kids with food allergies, so we bring our own food everywhere. She's like, so this worked out great that like she got to bring her nut-free, gluten-free, red dye-free, whatever. And like they got to sit and eat and do crafts, and I clean up. And so usually we give you about a 2-hour time block for a birthday party, unless it's a more complex activity, and then there's more time usually. But I think usually about 2 hours is enough for when parents are ready to wrap it up. But we do like craft. They eat cake and snack, and then the craft dries and or gets finished, and then they go home. And mom and dad are happy. The party has an end time. They have a super good time, and we can kind of hang out in the studio, and they get to make a mess, and the parents don't have to do it. The parents don't have to be creative if they're not creative, and you have that creative kid. Like, no, that's what we're for. So
somebody could call you up and say, I have X amount of dollars to work with.
Yep.
And I really don't have any idea what I want to do. Can you give me some suggestions, and how long is it going to take, and when's available, and then you can help them out with all that stuff.
Yeah, exactly. We had a lady last year who was like, we want to have a SpongeBob birthday. How do you do that? And so we made SpongeBob's house. And so it was like a fairy house, like all these weird natural materials, but we made like little pineapple houses and like under the sea. And then we made ocean in a bottle, like sensory bottles. And like mom was ecstatic, and she was so happy that like she didn't have to have, she goes, I live in a half a duplex. I cannot have 15 little boys in my kitchen. Like, that will not go well. There's
the ocean in a bottle thing, is that where you, it's like a wave?
Oil and water.
Yeah, and you
then,
go back and forth with it and make waves?
Yeah.
That's pretty cool.
And we duct tape them shut. So then my warning to parents is like, if you hear duct tape being peeled in your backseat, pull over. Because it's a lot of baby oil and food coloring that's not going to go well.
I actually always wanted to make one of those too, because I remember when I was in elementary school, there was a kid that brought one in. I was like, that's the coolest thing I've ever seen. How did you do that? I still to this day have no idea.
No, and I think those are the things like, so post-graduating art school and pre-opening the shop, I was a substitute teacher, and I worked with special needs students. And so, like, all those sensory calming things, like, that's why slime is a craze. It's a sensory output thing. I don't personally like to touch it, but they love the stuff. So it's like, okay.
Yeah, my kids are crazy about slime.
And, like, watching those videos of, like, floral foam being crushed with glitter on it, like, they'll watch hours of that, and it's like,
it's crazy.
Okay.
Yeah, it's weird.
Neat. Weird. And, like, the pour paintings, we do the pour painting classes, and, like, one mom wanted to do it for her birthday, and I said, I'll say yes. It's going to be expensive because it's a lot of paint. I was like, and you need to pick another activity because it's 5 minutes of action. Mm-hmm. And then it's like, oh, you work in town? Good. I'll see you Wednesday when they're dry. Because if we do it Sunday, it's going to take all weekend to dry.
That's the other great thing is that right here, you're between Brooklyn and Putnam, pretty much.
And we're easy to find.
Between Plainfield and Putnam. So you're centrally located right here in Danielson. And I love the way the pavement in Danielson's come out. It looks great. And all the parking on the right side is only on the right side. When you're coming from Brooklyn toward Dayville through Danielson, now the parking's only on the right. So you don't have to worry so much. Like it used to be really kind of crazy in downtown Danielson. When you'd go to park, you'd go to get out of your car, you'd be a little afraid. But
yeah, and I always like let parents know, like,
cars coming.
Like there's also parking at Commerce parking lot. There's parking behind Trinket Shop. And because like you have families who it's just the 10 friends they've invited. And then you have families who like grandma and grandpa and auntie and uncle, and then they all shop in the shop, which is great. I mean, I don't care. Like, that's awesome. So the kids make the mess, and the parents kind of poke around and sit around and eat snacks and chat. And so that's,
How do you feel about the parent that wants to drop their kid off and go over to New York Pizza and have a beer?
Depends on the kid. I find that the parents who drop their kids off, there's a reason they're dropping them off.
Oh, really?
It's like a pattern.
So you're like, oh no. When
during April break, we did classes all April break long, and in 72 font, I was like, you will not drop your child off. It's only a 30-minute class. You will hang out. I have a whole shop you can be in.
Yeah.
But for older kids, we do drop classes. Like, it's an age
you don't want,
range.
like, so what is it, under 8 or something? Under
so
10?
for under 10, it was my age limit this summer, and that seemed to work out well because, like, 10 and up, they want more than a half hour of arts and crafts. Like, they want to get into it.
Yeah, right.
And
They're more
so, like,
into
an
it.
hour or 90 minutes is perfect for them.
The little kids get antsy quick.
Oh, and the little people, like, and I'm done. And the moms are always like, but we paid for the class, and you picked 2 buttons to glue to it, and that was it. This lady's got all this cool stuff, and you picked 2 buttons. And the parents are always like, oh, man, what do you mean you're done?
So when are your... Like, do you have set times for kids under 10 or?
So over the summer we did, and then we're going to try to work out like a mommy and me time again. So that's where our Facebook and our Instagram comes in perfect. Like, I just did a survey. So get on there and answer a survey. Like, what days are kids actually free? What times would you work in? But we do, like, it was like 11 to noon drop in, like, mommy and me. And so that's for little people. And so, like, I had one mom, she was like, this is nice because she had 2 kids with her, and one was like in like the baby Bjorn, like she was wearing the infant, and the 3-year-old was like making a mess. And she goes, we used to do a lot more crafts at the house, but now that I have 2, I have to chase one. One's busy and into everything the other one shouldn't be in. And she's like, it was better when she wasn't mobile, because now she was walking and like into stuff, and she was asleep while they were at this class. But she's like, this is a nice option. Like, we just did a family fun paint night for Halloween, and we painted 4 pumpkins. And I had everything from, I had a woman probably in her 70s came to the class with her 3 grandchildren. And then I had I had a mom and her 16 and her 15-year-old, and that was kind of cool. And then I had a mom with her 3 and 5-year-old. And so she just kept mouthing, thank you, as like the 3-year-old's just smushing paint. And like his painting was highly textured and very Picasso-esque. And a little juicy. Like, I wrapped it in a trash bag so she could get it in the car in one piece. I was like, thanks for coming. She was like, no, this is great. She's like, kids are washable. Like, she was like, I can't do this at the house with them.
Yeah,
She's
right.
Like, we won't finish a project.
And just what about with adults? You have a ladies paint and wine type of thing ever?
So Wednesday nights, they're usually always on a Wednesday, and then just recently on Facebook, somebody's like, can you do some Saturday nights? So I think we're going to add like a set rotational Saturday night ones coming in this winter. But right now they're always on a Wednesday night from 6 to 8. So for November we did like the 7th is Sock Gnomes, the 14th is Give Thanks, and it's a wooden sign, and I'm going to teach you how to letter. And so like we're going to do a whole thing on hand lettering, and then you're going to use carbon paper, which like I don't think anybody under the age of 35 knows what it is. And I had to like order it special online because I couldn't find it anyplace local. And then you're going to actually paint on a piece of wood, because I've been invited to a couple of wood painted signs, and it's like, that's a sticker or a stencil. And that's different. I wouldn't advertise it as you're painting. You're filling in. There's paint involved. So we're offering that because I was getting a little burnt out with this canvas. They come out nice, though. They come out really nice, and it's
they look
like
professional.
Yeah, and they look easy.
You don't have to have any skills.
No, you can just do it. And we do those types of classes too, but I thought like this would be a little bit something special. And then we do a lot of traveling classes. So we're at the Music Lady like 2 nights a month in
I didn't realize
Plainfield.
Yeah.
So we're actually there to a sold out class Friday night. This upcoming Friday on the 9th, we're doing painted wine glasses.
Wow.
We have 40 people coming.
Nice.
Like, which is aggressive, but I'm super excited. It'll be super fun. And then on the 30th, we're there painting a wooden sign with a snowman, and that's on our Facebook as an event. And you can buy your tickets right there. And it's $30 or 2 for $50. So that way, like, you can make 2 of them and give one as a gift. But it's out of reclaimed lumber, aka some stuff that I've been hoarding from old projects. And I'm like, oh, how can we reuse this? Reclaimed sounds fancy. It just means it's not sitting in the craft room in a pile. But we're painting a snowman looking up at the sky, and it says like winter wishes or like let it snow, and you can pick which thing you want it to say. But that'll be super fun. But we've had a ball doing the travel classes, and Patty at the Music Lady loves it because it brings in new people, or people who maybe haven't been in that bar ever, or people who haven't been in a long time. And so then they're like, oh, cool. And then they all stay and have a drink and have something to eat. And, so she's making her money and I'm making my money and everybody's happy.
Yeah, and she's right off the highway, too, so it's easy access right in Plain,
exactly.
Moose Up, actually, right?
Yep.
Exit 89.
Village,
Used to be Exit 89.
Yeah. The old Exit 89, I don't know the new numbers.
I still don't know the new numbers. So when you come to Danielson, there's not I shouldn't say that there's not a heck of a lot, because there's a lot more than you realize down here in Danielson. But let's start on one side. There's that I can think of off the top of my head, and you can help me out with this. There's Morrie's Pub, which is actually, they have a great craft beer selection there for very affordably. Yeah. And they have karaoke, and they have trivia nights, and they have music bingo, and they have live music, yeah, right. And you can watch sports there and that type of stuff. They have Trinket Shop right across the street here. I missed the Magic the Gathering place across the street, which I don't know. Uncanny Collectibles, right?
Yeah, so he's got like, if you were a comic book nerd, he's your place to go, because he's got like a ton of comic books and different weird collectibles and funky stuff. And then they do like old school game console night where they play like Smash Brothers and like, I don't know. I didn't play video games, but like, think of
old
your
school
like
console games,
console
like
game night, and then the Nintendo type of stuff.
Oh, cool.
And then they do like video game nights, and then they also do like Magic the Gathering, and then they do like other sort of like the role play board game.
I should learn more about what they do.
12 Dides,
Dungeons and Dragons, I'm sure, right?
That type of stuff.
Brick City
Tattoo.
Brick
City Tattoo, super talented.
Is another place over there. My buddy Jason Yanish over there, and Tom Soroka and Rodney St. Ange now.
So
they do
super all talented,
great
beautiful
work,
artwork, and they've been a nice addition to Main Street. Like, it's like, their customers are waiting for their appointments and shopping here, and that's
another thing.
Beautiful.
And it's all artsy.
Yeah,
it's all art related.
The type of people who want handmade, or the people who want old school tattoo, like artwork on them, are the people who want craft beer from either Morrie's or Black Pond. It's like, it's a very similar crowd. When I first opened, I went to a KBA mixer, and I was like, we have to befriend people tonight. And my brother was like, who are we befriending? And I was like, the girl at Heirloom, the boys at Black Pond Brews. And he's like, why? And I was like, people who want to buy an artisanal, like, fake grilled cheese with bean sprouts on it for $15 need a $35 cutting board. And people who want to buy locally brewed beer that, like, these guys are making essentially in a garage at that point, like, because they were just in the little part of the basement. Like, they want to, like, they want, like, a brewed vinegar that's made locally, or they want soap that smells, or they want soap that smells like beer, or I
met him at the homebrew club. Let's continue. Let's go right down Main Street off here, like we're creating like kind of a just off the top of our head downtown map.
Fun stuff to do.
Is Body Marks Tattoo still
Body
over there?
Marks,
okay.
Johnny Mac, he's super talented. And
Deary's Gymnastics,
which is always got a full parking lot of, like, the minivan invasion shows up, and all of the moms and like the little people on the weekend. So you see like toddlers and tutus, and like that's kind of fun.
I'm not sure if there's something over between Body Mark Sunnyside to the right. There used to be a primitives place.
No,
I'm not sure.
She just she retired actually, so that one's empty. But and she had beautiful stuff. I was like,
it was nice.
Yeah, everybody was sad to see. Everybody's like, "Where'd she go?" And it's like she retired. Like that's kind of how that happens, you know. Like,
but then we have Danielson Surplus, and then after that, I kind of get lost over there a little bit. Is it Aces Defense? That's way down.
Nope, Danielson Surplus, and then you've got the computer. Oh, there's a computer repair guy who's super affordable, and he fixes phones, he does computer repair. Then you've got the Chop Shop, which is owned by Ryan Howley, and it's like a nice barbershop. And you can go get like a hot shave.
I didn't know that's where he was. I know him.
Yeah, and it's beautiful in there. And he has some of my art hanging on the wall, so that's cool. And then across the street you have Vape Tech, and they expanded because they were in where Chop Shop is now, and they moved across the street, and they have a beautiful big spot next to Joseph Jewelers. I think there's who's next door to them. So we've got a lot going on, and like you've got Deb's Diner right there in the corner, and she's always busy every weekend. Like they've got excellent food.
That's right. I mentioned Deb's Diner earlier at the Economic Development Commission meeting because it's one of the few places that are really a restaurant. You got Pizza Pizzazz, New York Pizza, Deb's Place, and then Heirloom is way down North Main Street. Mm-hmm. But and
then we've got George's Galley, but they're more like breakfast and like Black Pond. You know, we love the boys at Black Pond. When I was on Center Street, I used them as free advertising all the time by hanging my stuff on their walls. Mm-hmm. It's a nice symbiotic relationship. Great. So
I love Mike, president of the KBA,
super active,
Killingly Business Association,
different stuff downtown. So. And then we've got Heart and Home.
Oh God, how can I? So I started at Morrie's actually because
you didn't started where you attend. No, so that was great. When I moved to Main Street, someone's like, "Oh, you worried about Heart and Home?" And I was like, "No, we're going to give each other customers," and we totally do. Like Ruth sends me people, and I send her people. Yeah. And then there's the Velvet Tomato in Heart and Home, which is a quilt shop.
I don't know much about the Velvet Tomato.
It's her daughter is a beautiful seamstress, and she makes these wonderful quilts. And so she has a mini quilt shop in a section of Heart and Home, and you can take a quilt making class there. Mm-hmm. You can buy fabric there and notions, and like it's like fancy fabric.
I love Heart and Home. And then we have Valvoline, and then we have Welch's. They're closed now.
Closed. Yep, that's up for rent. And then Todd's House of Carpets. He's been there forever. Mm-hmm. He's a nice neighbor. And Lilium Florist. And she does like a ton of business, and she sends me people, and so and she offers me weird things for arts and crafts, which I like those people.
Amazing animals.
Amazing animals. And so we used to have a pig, and now he lives with Pat at her house. But he was like the highlight of like one of my birthday parties. He had sort of was just wandering on the street, and the kids were like, "There's a pig at this party!" And I was like, "There could be." Like he walks on a.
There was a pig that would run loose on Main Street pretty often.
Yeah, and some tortoises.
Like at least once a week.
Yeah,
or something.
So but the pig is now retired off of Main Street. But her Angora rabbit is like everybody has to go see Fiona the rabbit. Like every little kid who comes to my shop who doesn't really want to be in my shop because mom is taking too long, they're like, "Can we go to the animal store now?" Like, and they freak out. So that's sort of.
So after Amazing Animals, though, we have Tunk City.
Yep, I'm the next
Revival shop. Right next door, and then right after Tunk City Revival, we have Joint on off 6.
They also own the Joint on 6. So this is their second location.
And then we have Danielson. Well, actually, no longer Danielson of Etrasports. Now it's Apollo Cycles.
Yep, so.
And then below them, Black Pond Brews, and then next to that, Imperial Room, and then Busquets Appliances and TV, and New York Pizza Rate.
Yep.
So I think
there's like a tile place, and there's lots of stuff going on.
I hope we didn't miss anybody that's going to get mad at us.
Yeah, well, if you did, oops, I'm
we
sorry.
did a pretty good job.
Did a good job.
I think. So I wanted to take a few minutes and just talk about downtown Danielson because we do need more businesses to come to downtown Danielson.
Definitely.
We did another restaurant, I think. I was just talking about that at EDC.
Yeah. And I think that's sort of some of the plans of some of the happenings that are going on. There's a new another restaurant, and then I think it's a really good sign that when you look at like the KBA, it's a lot of young business owners, and I think that's done a good thing for like morale in town, and it shows that like. Young business people, we could do our business anywhere. We're choosing to do our business here. And so as some young blood comes in, I think that like we either light a fire under old blood because they're like, "Oh, I got to step my game up." Or some of the old blood is so happy to see young life that they're like, "We'll help you." And so like that's been my experience at least is that like everybody was so happy to see me get to Main Street. Like I remember our first Christmas on Main Street. Like, I think it was my first small business Saturday, which is coming up, by the way, on the 24th. Don't forget, come see us. Alan from the Trinket Shop walked over and shook my hand, and he was like, "There isn't an empty parking spot on Main Street, and that's because of you." And I was like, I think that's like proudest business moment. Like, I was like, yeah, I guess so. Like,
Yeah, Trinket Shop's great, by the way. We should also talk about them. Huge wedding gown selection and
wedding
prom
gowns and uniform and
uniforms for nurses and
like,
doctors and that
but
type
their
of stuff.
amount
Shoes.
of bridal and like prom.
It's huge. 6,000 square feet. I did a virtual tour across the street over there. It's huge.
We had this kind of older lady come in this weekend. She goes, "How do they make money doing bridal and Killingly?" And I was like, because brides come from everywhere. And a woman had just literally come in the weekend before, and she had a pink bag, which means she's the bride. And she's like, "The shop is so cool." She's like, I was like, "Well, did you say yes to your dress?" And she said, "Yes, I did." And she's like, "I had bought a dress at David's Bridal, and I felt pressured to buy it, and I liked it, but I didn't love it." She's like, "So I returned it." She's like, "And Trinket was so nice, and I had a private appointment, and I wasn't pressured to spend more money than I had." And she goes, "I'm in love with my dress." And like, you don't get that experience at a chain. Like, you don't get that. Like one of my girlfriends bought her dress at Trinket, and like every bride says they're gonna lose weight, but she really did. And like, they still got that dress to look beautiful, but they had to like seriously restructure the entire dress because she like lost a person. Like, that dress was half the size it was, and you could not tell that it had been altered. Like, you know, like, they're very good at what they do. Their personal service is excellent. If you buy a prom dress from them, they keep a list of what prom you're at, and they don't sell the same dress twice or something like that. So that way you don't
I've heard that.
You know, like, that girl stole my look. You don't have that moment. So that's kind of cool. But they get like, I had a Miss Connecticut pageant person. I don't know. She was running in some beauty pageant, but she was like, "I always come to Trinket to get my dresses because they have different stuff." And she was from like Middletown. So like, to drive all the way out here to get a dress, you know?
They have a huge following, Trinket Shop.
Giant following.
Great store. And then we have Westfield Congregational Church. Jonathan Chapman done a great job promoting Killingly.
Promoting Killingly Pride.
Huge
and like,
response he's gotten.
They're gearing up for their New England's Christmas, which if you haven't been, it is a beautiful experience.
Oh, the Victorian, they decorate everything.
It's beautiful.
I did a virtual tour of that too over there.
And it's so cool. And it's like a giant old quintessential New England congregational church.
Beautiful.
It's beautiful.
And he sponsors events with all the lights along downtown Danielson with all the little luminaries and all that stuff, thousands of luminaries. And then there's a fire in Davis Park where, you know, you can kind of huddle around the fire, and they have all kinds of stuff. There's so much going on.
They have a more active, like, I think I have an active, like, events calendar. Theirs is more. Like, if you follow Westfield, you're like, oh my God, they have stuff happening all the time.
You're right. You could just go to their events.
Oh, yeah.
Never mind, like, Parks and Recreation.
And you get fed and have a good time. And, like, they do
KVA.
There's so many things. And, like, Parks and Rec does a ton of events, and they actually do some events with us. So, like, we're going to do some this spring. We did them last spring. So we did kids makers like weekends with kids events, and that was awesome. And so they advertise for us, and so you get all those parents who maybe didn't know I existed as a business in town or didn't know what I offered, and now, you know, they're like waiting while their kids at basketball camp, and they're like, "Oh, this sounds interesting. Robot making. Oh, slime making." You know, and so that's been a really great, you know, they work super hard at Parks and Rec to keep a bunch of busy events, and every one of their events that are downtown helps bring in customers, every single one.
I've been very happy to see all the events that the Killingly Business Association has brought to Danielson. Like Spring Fest was kind of like the old springtime festival. It's been brought back to town because wasn't around for
it went away
15, 20 years, something like that. I think it goes the way
of anything that's volunteer run. Eventually your volunteers get tired of volunteering. And so it was so awesome to see Wendy at Heirloom kind of help spearhead bringing it back, and her like group of little volunteers, like, oh my God, talk about like bust and hump. And like, they put on an awesome event, and it gets bigger every year. And I think that's really great. And I'm glad that like the business association that we're, you know, and we're involved, and we're willing to donate money and help them, you know, figure stuff out and like planning wise. And it's always a great event. And I think, you know, the more events we do is better for our community as a whole. I think it brings some hometown pride when you go to those events. And it's like, I don't know. I joke that like I left and I was never coming back, and now I've opened a business in town. And like, I do all the first Fridays up in Putnam, and I do their community arts aspect. And I'd walked into a shop in Putnam just to do a little shopping, get away from my booth, and like somebody was like, oh, it's the Mara Danielson, like, oh, it's the Tunk City lady. And I was like, shush, somebody will hear you. Like, but that's the kind of like, you get this, I don't know, like hometown pride feeling, which is great, and I love that. I was on like one of my first dates with my boyfriend, and we were somewhere, and he's like, everyone. And I was like, they know me. I don't necessarily know them, but they know who I am, because I do the Winnie spots and I'm on the KBA. And so I've had people say, I know your voice, because they've heard my voice on the radio. Or, oh, I saw your thing on Facebook. My mom's a teacher at Plainfield High School. She's been a paraprofessional for 27 years. And she went in this weekend after we did a Facebook Live video. And all the teachers were like, Rena's famous. Is she going to sign autographs? So I was like, sure. But, like, it's sort of funny. Like, I think if more people had that attitude about their town, or that warm, fuzzy feeling about their own hometown or their own area, all good things can happen.
And I know we're getting a little bit off the Tunk City Revival topic, but you are involved in a lot of the things that go on in Danielson. You're a big part of the Killingly Business Association, so I know you care about this stuff. And I know you have some knowledge about these types of things, obviously, as we're talking about the different businesses and all the knowledge that you have about each one of these businesses. I do think that Killingly Business Association is an excellent organization, and I feel like there are more businesses that should be taking advantage of it in Killingly. Putnam has a huge turnout at every single one of their meetings. Killingly Business Association, although I unfortunately haven't had the time to make it to the last couple meetings, I'm going to try to make more of an effort to make it to those. It's just been crazy lately. But I do feel like there are so many businesses in Killingly that should be taking advantage of that, and building owners and just residents get involved.
Property developers, or
if you
want to know what's happening,
right,
go to a town meeting, or watch them. You could or get the minutes, then you're kind of informed. And I became more informed just by attending things, and not even anything special. Like go to a mixer to get your name out and hand out business cards and rub elbows, but also get to meet people and find out other people who are doing. I don't know. I've gotten artists because of that. I've gotten recommendations.
What's the date of the Killingly Business Association meeting?
It's always the first Thursday of the month.
7:45
7:45 a.m.
7:45 a.m.
A little early at the little theater on Broad Street, at KPRD. So in Parks and Rec, park in the back, and you'll find us.
So it's Broad Street in Danielson. I can't remember the number offhand. It's the old junior high. Yep. When I went there, it was a junior high. Before me, it was Killingly High School a long time ago. So anyway, if everybody knows that building in the intersection of Cottage Street and Broad Street, you park in the back, you enter in the back of the building, and then you just go up to the auditorium, 7:45, first Thursday every month. Yep. And I'm sure that the more people that go to this meeting, the better Killingly is going to become. Danielson specifically, any businesses that want to get involved in anything, please attend that meeting, and you can Google it for more information. Yep. Killingly Business Association, and they actually have a website which I helped design, it looks pretty good. It helps organize the information and get more information on the website. But let's get back to, now that we've covered just about kind of an update of all of Killingly downtown.
Weekend update.
Danielson Killingly Business Association promotion. Let's get back to some other stuff that you do here at Tunk City Revival. So what other things can we talk about here? Do you want to take a walk around and talk about some of the things that you have available for sale? And maybe we can even go into detail about some of the artists as we walk around. Where do you want to start?
I guess we'll start here and then sort of circle around.
Okay, so we're starting over...
at Hiya Pop Soap Company. She's my best friend and vendor. So I met Julie at a craft show, and our booths were next to each other, and all day I was like, this lady's awesome. She's super passionate. And so it was a 2-day craft fair event. We got to know each other, exchanged cards, and then we sort of just kept running into each other because, that's sort of how the craft fair circuit is. You see the same faces. And it was nice to find...
Let's spell her name.
Yeah. It's Hi, H-I, yeah, Pop. Hyphenated, and she's on Facebook and Instagram. She does great videos of slicing of her soap, and it's super visually appealing, but also they smell great. She's right in Brooklyn, Connecticut. She's super talented. I love her stuff. She's one of our best sellers every month. And when I opened my shop, I opened my pocket full of business cards from the summer before, and I was like, I need vendors. Please be a vendor in my store. And, at that point, she was Little House Homestead Soaps, and now she's sort of changed and shifted her name. And so now she's Hiya Pop Soap Company. Her father was a super important guy in her life, and so it's an homage to him. So Hiya Pop. It means
Hiya Pop.
Hiya
Now
Pop
I got it.
when you're walking in. And it isn't your grandma's soap. So all of her soaps are handmade. They're beautiful. They're different colors. They're super fun. She loves color. So she's got like one called Monkey Farts, and it is day glow pink and lime green and orange and purple, and it smells delicious, even though it's called Monkey Farts. And then she does a whole line with essential oils, which sell really well. So for Christmas, we have gold, frankincense, and myrrh. And like, her stuff smells so good. I always use the hashtag on Instagram, like smell-o-vision, like you should be here. But she has an awesome following, which makes my job easier. But her stuff's just amazing, and she's, you can't miss her giant display in my shop. It has a tin roof and a giant like banner out in the front of it that says Hayapapusa.
Right, so it is the easiest display to recognize, because when you first walk in the front door here at Tunk City Revival and you look back in the right corner of the room, it's the huge wooden display. It kind of looks like a tiki hut a little bit without the grass on the top, and it's got all the soap all over it. So let's talk about what else do we have here?
So we have like a wide variety of handmade jewelry or funky stuff, but one of my favorite people is Dan Very, and his wife is actually Delpha Very, who's the Putnam.
I know Delpha.
Yeah, so she works in Putnam. She's their
economic development and community redevelopment. Right?
And so I met him at a craft show, and I was like, "Oh, your stuff's funky!" And like, then he came in the shop, and so like, I love Dan. He's always tinkering with something. So when he first came in the shop, he was making stuff out of spoons and forks and knives and stuff. Mm-hmm. And then he goes to auctions and tag sales. So he shows up to the shop. He goes, "How do you feel about copper?" And I said, "I like copper." He's like, "Oh, good. I bought 500 feet of salvaged copper pipe." So he's got these great copper pipe cuff bracelets, and they sell really well, and everybody loves them. I call them the Wonder Woman bracelet because it's a big, wide bangle. Mm-hmm. But they're made out of old pipe that has been, like, air is locked in it to get the dents and the dings. Mm-hmm. They're all patinaed because they're real copper, which copper is good for your circulation and your health if you wear it. And I wear one of his bracelets every day. But I love his stuff. It sells itself, and it's super cool. And it's like, he's probably old enough to be my grandpa. He rides a motorcycle, and he shows up with like a Ziploc bag full of jewelry, and he's like, "Work your magic, kid," and then he leaves. And
what's the name of him? What's his name again?
Dan Very. And
Dan, Danvery.
Yeah, and he does reclaimed like funky copper or silver jewelry. But he's the man of many hats, and he does lots of things. But he's one of my, he's a crowd favorite, especially at Christmas.
They used to own Stogie Hollow in Woodstock, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
And so he does, he's always tinkering, and he's always got some strange project. He's like, I've got this for you, or we'll try that. And so that works out well. I kind of like it's a good relationship that way, and his stuff's super nice, and
so let's let's kind of do a brief overview, because otherwise we're going to be here all night. But let's do kind of let's just walk around and pick out some of the larger, more recognizable things.
Jason's stuff here. We've got so Jason Hoffman. He's in the homebrew group, and that's how I met him, was through the guys at Black Pond. And then too. And I met him through, he'd like come in the shop as like a customer. And then he was like, "I make stuff, but I make stuff you can't sell because you can't sell booze." And he was like, "But I also make vinegar, and I make, sauces and like all kinds of stuff." So he's got like black honey, which is like a reduced cooked down honey, which he puts in like a pressure cooker. I don't know. It's delicious, and it's good on meat. He also does like vinegars. He hosts classes with us. So this summer we did a limoncello making class with him, and it was bring your own booze, build the limoncello, because he's figured out the science. And so we're going to do like a fire cider, as people are getting sick in that time of year, class, I think. And we're going to do like easy fermentation 101 with Jason, because he knows all this stuff, and he's like Mr. Good. Wizard. He's good. Like he's Mr. Wizard of booze and like fermented things. And he's like he's very much like, he's like very science. But
he looks like a mad scientist a little bit.
And he's always like, "And I've got this great idea." And I'm like, "Okay."
You wouldn't be surprised to see if he came out in a lab coat. Yeah, he looks like the type, like a chemistry teacher from junior high.
Yes, exactly. So, he wants to teach a slime class, and I'm going to let him, because he knows how to make slime that's edible. And I'm like, "Okay.
Wow.
Let's make edible slime. I'm not opposed." Let's see.
So we're walking around Tunk City Revival right now, just taking a look at some of the more notable items here. So what do we have over here?
So one of the many things that I do is I paint signs. So a lot of the signs you see in the shop are mine, but I just did about 8 old hand saws. They're all hand lettered, and so they've got great punny woodworking quotes and or hard work quotes. So chop your own wood, it'll warm you twice. But this is my super guy item, and it either goes one of two ways. Little old men will go, "That's a perfectly good saw," or they'll go, "Oh, I like that," or it's a perfectly good distance saw and you painted on it, and but
Those are actually pretty saws.
yeah. Well, and so this is where my handy dandy brother Seth, he's like, you got to clean them up more, because I was just painting on a rusty saw because I like rust. I think it's patina, but we cleaned them all up and oiled all the handles and downplayed the patina. But they look great, and they're a nice item for $25. Like that's a nice dude gift. That's good man decor.
So it has writing all over it, like little sayings like "chop your own wood and it'll warm you twice." "Dirty hands are a sign of clean money." And actually, I recognized your lettering at Black Pond Brews, because right above their window, right to the left of the bar, it says "I love craft beer" or something. I recognize your handwriting style. Yeah.
So I have a distinctive style, I think, and it's. When I worked at the 4-H camp, that's how we used to archaeologically dig into the art closet. Was whose handwriting was on the boxes. Like, oh, I found an old box. It has Rena's handwriting on it. It's like, shh, don't tell anybody. So this is an awesome person. She calls herself Scuttled Treasures. Just like Little Mermaid, she has her Scuttled Treasures of Caves. Like, that's the same where she gets it from. So she does nerd stuff. So all the nerddom you can think of. We have Harry Potter. And we have she brought me a ton of Harry Potter stuff. We've got Disney stuff. We've got Ninja Turtles. I've got superheroes. All of the Jack Skellington. But so she goes, when I started making purses, I was doing pretty floral fabric. But people who want pretty floral fabric will just go buy Vera Bradley. She's like, but if you want Walking Dead, you'll buy mine. And if you want, Batman and Wonder Woman. And so she just dropped off a bunch of badge reels and different fun little things for Christmas. But she also does super purses and awesome stuff. But check her out. She's on Facebook and she's on Etsy. So she sells on Etsy and on Facebook. But Scuttled Treasures, Marie's her name. She's super awesome. And her daughter have been working on stuff together. And her daughter's 12. And she helps her assemble things. But super neat stuff. Quick go and grab. Who doesn't need a poop emoji backpack keychain that glows in the dark? Every 10-year-old child.
And it's a little reference to the elf there. Don't be a cotton-headed ninny mug and all of that. Yeah,
so she's super fun and does all kinds of different stuff all the time. And then, I guess we'll feature Would Be Nice. My Would Be Nice ladies. So as you walk into the shop, you'll see a black crate that says "Would Be Nice" with just the letter B, and nice is NYCE. And these are two ladies who live right in Killingly, and they are super talented, and they do scroll cut woodworking. So they will do your dog's face as a portrait for a leash holder for $40. You can't ask for a better price, and they're super sweet people to work with, and they do take custom orders even into December, which, but so I've got some awesome dog leash holders that they've made, but they do candelabras, and they do toothpick holders, and they do custom signs, clocks, but everything's out of wood and all scroll cut. And if you've ever used a scroll saw, it takes a certain kind of patience.
I was just about to ask you how they do this, because this is it's pretty elaborate. As I'm looking over here at some of these, some of the dog.
Yeah, so they're that Rottweiler. You can see she does inlays the parts that are different colors wood and stains and paints, and so they are very beautiful. And she's at Christmas. It's a very popular item. People who love their pets go over the moon for whatever their pet is.
Yeah, the dog leash holders look really intricate. You would think that they were probably cut with some sort of a water jet or something like that.
Yeah, no, I was like, no, you have a CNC machine. I didn't believe her. And she was like, nope.
All hand cut?
But she's just been, using a scroll saw for 25 years. This is her hobby.
Everything here, is it all handmade?
For the most part. And then handmade or hand assembled or upcycled. We do a ton of weird upcycled and funky. Mm-hmm. And then we also have vintage finds that I just think are cool, that I think are maybe flippable. I buy them and try to sell them, or I turn things into things. So I have a peace sign made out of that lights up with Christmas lights, made out of a bike rim and things like that. But I'm always on the hunt for things that I find visually appealing, mm-hmm. or that's trending on Pinterest, or in home decor. So it's sort of a little, I don't know, sort of interesting. One thing that isn't for sale, but everybody loves in our store, is our historical walk through downtown. There's a podium as you walk in, and it says, "Take a walk down historic downtown." And it's a photo album of pictures of downtown Danielson, which is awesome. It came with the building. So while it was Gil's Shoe Barn, Gil, he kept track. And so when I opened, his daughter, Deb, said to me, the book needs to be with you. It needs to stay with the building.
Oh, that's interesting. It says Gil Poirier on it.
Yeah, and so he's got a bunch of old black and white photos of town. I think the most recent ones are in the 90s at the back of the book, but like Sunshine Card Shop. And so people of a certain age will stand here and flip through and be like, oh, I remember that. And they take a little walk down memory lane. And then there's also pictures of like the shoe barn and then like some of the work that they did in the building.
I almost forgot the name Alice Eleanor.
Yeah.
I haven't seen that in I don't even know how long.
Danielson's Federal Savings Bank, which is now Key Bank, I think, and so it's kind of interesting. They've got some good shots of different stuff downtown. A couple like historic fires because Danielson's had a few of them. But like I call it's like a great husband occupier.
Oh, that is right. That's a good idea.
A
lot of the things in here are typically women type of things.
My friend's 11-year-old last year said, this is a mom store. But that was okay because I used it to advertise for Mother's Day. I said, according to local 11-year-olds, this is a mom store. But, you can peek through this book and take a little trip downtown and see what was that building or where's that building or what was this? So it's kind of neat that they kept track of things that happened in town. And my mom's like, you need to go take pictures of other stuff and add in new stuff. So I think that might be on my bucket list of things I have to do.
That is pretty cool. I didn't know this existed here. I would have come and checked this out a long time ago. Lots of neat stuff in here. I like flipping through stuff like this. There's a guy named Gerard Dauphiné. Is that the guy?
He popped in.
He posts stuff on
he posts stuff on the Killingly Historical, and then he also does the the Quiet Corner Facebook page or whatever. But there's a great picture of the inside of this shop from the 40s that somebody posted, and then he had a picture that's in the book actually. So that's my classroom. And then he came in and he was like, "Can I take a picture?" And I was like, "Oh, it's a mess." He goes, "I don't care." And so then he posted a picture of like the classroom now, and so it's like the phases it's been through. And it's just been sort of like the Rotary and the creepy Santa that used to be in the park made out of tinsel. With like screw-in light bulbs.
So let's take a little bit more of a walk around here. So it looks like you have some more. Let's see. We have coasters that are actually pretty cool.
Oh, yeah, those are wicked cool. So
I think I met this girl that does these.
You've probably met her here before or maybe at a First Friday. So that's Erica Treister. And so she taught our kids yoga program over the summer. She also does some teaching spotlights here. But she's a super talented watercolor artist. So she does her original watercolors and then she does sell her originals, but she also makes prints of her originals and then creates coasters out of them.
I actually really like those coasters.
Yeah, they're wicked nice.
That is nice.
Like really beautiful. And like, I find that, so something I've learned in owning my shop is like, not everybody falls in love with your $200 original, but they will spend $200 on $5 items of your art. And so I try to tell my artist that, but she's done that greatly. Like I met this artist at a craft show last year and she had everything from magnets and bookmarks to fine art prints of her stuff. And so she had $2 items and $200 items. And I was like, you're a smart person. And she goes, I make my booth rent on $2 items. And so
that's awesome.
I've got some photos by Virginia Chase. She's actively involved in Mother Nature's Garden. She helped build our rain garden right up the road. But she's an awesome photographer. And they're all shots of like, most of it's local. There's some that are local to Killingly, but New England. And so she sells photos here and postcards and different stuff. We have a lady who makes homemade American Girl doll clothes, which just basically means every little kid who comes to the shop just plays in this area. And the moms are like, I'm so sorry. No, it's okay. I find shoes in weird places. It's just kind of, I'm all right with it. But we'll take a little peek around. This is some more of our would-be nice people. So like kind of gives you a little array of what they do. So they do wall hangings and like business card holders and you name it. They can do your child's name, which as a kid named Rena, I never had anything with my name on it. So like, that's cool. I'm down. Unique names. You don't find that sticker at your field trips or anything. And then we have our little funky, called our Wild Earth area. So we've got like sage bundles and crystal jewelry and yoga socks and handmade soaps. Made by a woman who calls herself Apothecaris.
Yeah, and it looks like you have some essential oils.
And some different stuff. We've got this butterfly wing art, which is super cool. And she calls herself Kim Bugley, but she's a very patient person because I don't want to do anything that takes tweezers. But super cool, and she's also a nature photographer, so she gets some great shots and
pretty neat stuff.
Actually,
there's been a lot of additions in the last year. I don't think I've been in here much in the last year, and I have to say,
a ton of different. Like I love that we're vendor driven, which means our stock changes all the time.
Right.
And it also, like we're always getting new vendors. Like I had like 3 or 4 phone calls this week because it's getting to that like Christmas season, and so they all want to like make a little extra money. But like, and I've also picked up a few vendors from other shops because other shops will either suggest me, or sometimes you just need another set of eyes on your own work to sell it. So that sort of works out really well.
So can you talk about pricing? How do people find out about pricing to have their crafts or whatever what do you call their products for sale here?
Yep. So we charge a $20 a month booth rent. We were charging $10 a month, and I found that was like that gym membership you pay for and don't use. So $10 is cheap, but it's cheap, and then I still have Christmas stuff, and it is August, and I become your store unlock. And so $20, you're a little more invested. And means you're on top of your game, and so that's good. And then we take 30%, and the artist keeps 70%. I found we're not exactly a gallery, so I wasn't going to charge 50%. And then also, as an artist, when I was looking for shops for my own stuff to be in, it was like, well, yeah, I could mark it up 50%. It's still not going to sell because it's going to be too expensive. So like 70-30 is comfortable.
That's typical.
It's typical, and it's a little bit more friendly, and it doesn't give people that sticker shock feeling. That like when I went and looked at a shop myself, and they were charging by the square foot on the floor, and he wanted 6 months rent up front, and I was like, I can build a really tiny tall shelf and put lots of things on it. Like that was my strategy. So it's like I can't afford just really tall shelves. But no, I think we have a nice variety of things, and our prices range in prices from I have things that are 50 cents and up, and I mean it. Like I have 50-cent items, I have lots of $5 items, lots of $10 items. A vast majority of our shop is $25 and under.
I would recommend to anybody that's been in here before that hasn't been in here in the last year to definitely come in and take a look around, because I see a lot of new inventory, and it seems like it's actually, I think you've added a lot of really interesting stuff, especially the stuff in that kind of the homeopathic type stuff over that section over there, like the essential oils and all that stuff. Pretty cool.
Like one of our vendors, she's like, she was making just kind of funky gemstone jewelry, and I was like, oh, that's kind of cool. And she was like, so I'm into stones, and I was like, oh, so she sells prisms and stones and pendulums and mala beads and I don't
know why I'm always attracted to that stuff for some reason.
The energy, you need to meet Rhonda at Masterpiece Minerals, and she's either in Putnam or Thompson, depending on what your GPS tells you. But she's in Village Pizza Plaza, and we did a class over there. We did a wire wrap crystal class with her, and her shop is full of crystals and minerals and bones and
the crystal for some reason.
It's
I don't know why. I actually have one in my car. I bought one at and it's funny because I went to First Friday a couple weeks ago, maybe I guess now probably about a month and a half ago. Time flies so fast. But she had this girl, and it was maybe it was the same woman.
Oh, maybe.
She had a bunch of crystals, and they were super affordable. I mean, like a few dollars
Yeah,
each.
Exactly. Rhonda's super affordable. She used to set up at
Rhonda. I know Rhonda.
Yeah.
Rhonda. Does she work at Bill's Bread and Breakfast in Putnam? Okay, I definitely know Rhonda. Yeah, she is pretty cool. She's really nice.
She's saved in my phone because she's the rock lady.
Yeah.
And she's got all these crazy minerals and stones, and I think you're either your energy is attracted to them, or I don't know. I have a piece of citrine above my door at the shop, and I joke with people because it's supposed to bring prosperity, wealth, and get rid of negativity, and it's worked.
I agree. Mine worked too.
Totally
I bought one in New Hampshire at a craft fair that my mom was attending for a pet adoption thing or something like that. But there was somebody that had crystals for sale over there, and it was the only thing that I was kind of interested in.
Checking
the whole
out,
place.
so
I grabbed one, and I was like, I'll just keep it in my car for good luck. And I do feel like good things have happened since that.
Yeah, definitely.
So what other kinds of things do you think that we could organize something, or would you be interested? Who else would we get involved with organizing some sort of a First Friday type thing for Danielson, like we were talking earlier before we started recording?
Definitely.
You think that would be something that...
I think giving people something to do and spotlighting downtown is never a bad thing. And I would love to come, we have a great events committee with the KBA, and so between the events committee and on the KBA, and then also just some community involvement, if people are looking, and maybe get some property owners even to so I follow on Instagram this great thing called Field of Artisans, and so they're out of Rhode Island, and they set up at East Matunic Beach, and but in the winter they set up in empty storefronts in Wakefield, and it's great because the property owner's getting a little bit of money, they're getting some great advertisement because their building doesn't look like, hey, break into me and steal all of my copper.
We're doing that similar thing we were talking about in Putnam.
And so, I think that would be a nice, bringing your farmer's market indoors for the winter and things like that. Westfield started doing indoor farmer's market, and I was like, that's a great step in the right direction because when I was just doing vending events, that was my biggest problem, was my vending season would end and people would be like, where do I find you now? And I'd be like, oh, I can meet you in a parking lot, which is super sketchy. And now you've got Facebook Marketplace and all those things. And so I think more of that happens. But like, it got to a point where my following was larger than my availability. And I was booked solid from like May till October with craft shows, doing 2 and 3 a weekend, every weekend that I could afford to do them. And then I started doing big stuff like furniture. And then, furniture doesn't fit in my tiny house along with all my other things I do. And that's how I ended up opening the first shop, was like I needed a space that wasn't a bedroom and a duplex to make art. And like that's been the best thing about being here on Main Street is I have my studio. So the studio is also my studio. So I'm actually in a solo art show at Thompson Public Library, which is up until November 30th. And like I got to finish a lot of my work in between customers, and then customers love watching you as an artist work. So they're like, oh, what are you working on today? And the mail lady, she's like my best, I'd say like lover and critic, because she always walks in. I'm in the middle of doing something weird, always. So like for First Friday, for the Canadian culture one, we did beavers. So I was cutting out cardboard beavers. She's like, what are you doing? Like tracing cardboard beaver. She's like, I was like, I got to cut 55 of these out. Don't interrupt. Like, I'm busy. She was like, it looks dead. And I was like, it won't once there's Google eyes on it. It's fine. But like, she always walks in and I'm in the middle of some art. My hands are covered in plaster, or there's paint on my face, or like, I don't have my apron on right now. I usually have my apron on. And this summer I saw like a regular customer. I think I saw her at Walmart, and she was like, look at you, not covered in paint. I was like, I know, right?
So what do you think of that, though? You think that's something that we could do practically?
I think it would
with
be
the KVA?
great. Yeah, I think
involved?
I think doing more things. I always joked that like Putnam knew I was a hustler because they saw me at everything. It took Killingly longer to figure out who I was, even though I live here, because like there's only so many events a year I can be at, And now that I'm my own business, obviously it's a little easier. But like I think if we had a rotating something, like people would come out because people look for things to do. Like as a family, like you want to find something to do that's kind of cost effective, a little bit on the cheap, like but you're not doing the same old. You're not just like. I saw kind of a horrible but yet accurate meme of like, you live in northeastern Connecticut when you like go to Target for entertainment, and like what are you doing walking around Target, like oh neat. Like give people things to do, they will do them. That's why the classes have taken off,
right?
It's like a service industry thing. Like I'm selling people a service, I'm selling them an experience. Are you doing fine art? No. Are you getting out of the house for maybe an hour or maybe doing something for you? Yes. And I think that's super valuable. Like we had a rotating fiber night last winter where you can, it's like a stitching bitch. You come and you bring your project, you work in a thing, everybody's happy. And so this one lady, she's a regular of the shop, and she's in all the time, and she's like, I've got to get to one of these. Like, and I'm like, sure you will. Like she hadn't got to one. And she came and she was like, all the stars aligned. Like, she had a babysitter, like everything was, and she was like, I've been working on this scarf for like 6 months, and I finished it because nobody was like, oh, hey mom, in the middle of it, like, so I didn't have to stop it and walk away. And, and like, so that's sort of funny. Like today, Rhonda Wishart, who does yoga in Putnam. So she came here today. She's like, she sends me a message. Hey, can I come use your studio for like an hour? Because she was like painting. She does a belly casting for her prenatal yoga people. And she's like, I don't want to do this at my house. Like I just cleaned my dining room table. Like I don't want to start a new project. And so like, like you came with your girls one night, and it's that same thing. It's like, they're going to do this messy thing. Can I just do it here?
Right.
Like,
my girlfriend had her birthday party for her son here. My kids have come here and had made slime. And my girlfriend also came at a different time and did
like
a
rock painting and robots and like
all kinds of stuff.
We try to do enough family friendly kid stuff, and then we also do like enough adult stuff where it's like, self-care means like giving yourself 2 hours to take a class someplace. And I think the fact that our classes are $25 and under usually, like you can justify like, what? No, I'm worth $20 in 2 hours, and like somebody else watch the kids, or somebody else deal with, or like my best compliment I ever get when somebody's like, oh my God, I had so much fun at your class. I didn't take any pictures with my phone, because they didn't have their phone in their hand, which is amazing in today's like technology driven life where like, what do you do to wind down at night? You lay in bed and you scroll. And like, that's sort of how you're winding down, is looking at an electronic screen. And like, so we do like adult coloring, and people are so like, oh, this is lovely. Like, I'm doing nothing. Like, I'm having a good time. Or I paid to take a class at my own shop, and the woman who was hosting was like, you didn't have to pay me. But she's like, you could have done this on your own. I go, yeah, but I haven't. because I didn't have time to finish the project.
Sometimes you have to pay people
Just so you will finish it, or that you'll...
because you take it seriously, and I feel like
you don't walk away from it.
Yeah, and it's like you made a commitment to it. There's value
a set
to
time.
it. Some reason. There's something about when you pay somebody to do something, unless as opposed to doing something for free. It's like it has more value for some reason. It's like you have to do this thing,
and it's like a deadline. You know, so as an artist, artists love deadlines. Like, I finished more. So like in running,
I hate deadlines. I just have to throw that out there.
No, yeah, no, but like you need them, right? And it's like okay, you can work really good under pressure. And so I think it was like I'd gotten to this solo art show, and I was like, oh, I need artwork. Oh, like I haven't really been working on real art. I've been working on like cutesy product stuff for the shop. I'm like, ooh, and then I like cleaned the studio. And I found like 7 half-started projects, because that's how I am. And so I was like, okay, I can finish these. And then I worked through the process, and like, you know, sometimes it just has to sit. And so I have this great piece that's in the show that's out of a found log that's like cracked open, and there's like a golden masked face on the top of it. And this lady at the library was like, that one's interesting. And like, she was probably 75. And so like little old ladies often, that's my real art gets that reaction. And so it didn't bother me. And I was like, yeah, no. She was like, oh, well, what drew you to it? And I was like, I had that piece of wood for a year in my studio, and it sat for a year, like almost a year, because I was attracted to it and I liked it, but I didn't know why. And I had to live with it. So it like lived in my space. I mean, it fell on me, and I moved it 700 times. I touched the damn thing 37 more times. I got to make my art out of it. I got to get my piece out of it. And so it worked out really well. And I was like, you know, I'd gone on a hike and like dragged this log out of the woods. And if you tell people, hey, I'm an artist, they don't ask questions. It's like, okay. You know, that was the best advice one of my art professors ever told me at art school, was like, just tell me you're an artist, like, or you're with the band. Like, it's like that. Like, and people let you like look like you know what you're doing and dress all in black. Nobody will ask questions. But it sort of, it worked. And so, but like I needed to simmer with that piece. Like I needed to work on it between customers. I needed that interaction. But I think like, it's sort of like that timeline thing, if you have a timeline. So if you take a 2-hour class, you're going to go home with a finished thing, you know? And I always make the joke at the beginning of every class, and my brother tells me it's stale material, that if you don't like yours, you can take mine home and lie to your friends. And because I hear so many people, I'm not an artist, I can't do this, at the beginning of every paint night. And it's like, you can, I believe in you. It's going to be okay. Take a deep breath. We're all in this together. Like, it's just arts and crafts.
I have another good question for you, actually. What are some of the classes that you've taught where the people just get this reaction? They're so happy with the way that it came out, or they're just so impressed with how well they did.
We did a floral paint night around Mother's Day, and it was like April showers bring May flowers, and it was a bunch of flowers. And so Elsie, who works at the town hall, came, and she's like, I'm crafty, but I'm not an artist. And like, she kept saying that. And a couple of like ladies had said the same thing. And I was like, you're painting the same 2 flowers. We're just going to do them different times. Like, it's going to be fine. And you just pick another color. And that paint night, we sold it out twice, like 27 people the first time and like 18 people the second time. And everybody from that one was like, it looked so complex and you made it so easy. And I was like,
so can you describe to us what it looked like?
Yeah, so it's got like a cluster of 5 large pink roses, and then it's got like droopy, I guess you could call them wisteria, or they could be buttercups. It could be whatever they are. It's a little 4-petaled flower.
Is that the one right over there to the left of the white thing?
Yeah. So we did that one, and it's so you paint these big roses first, and roses are big swirly swirls, and then all those little flowers are just tiny little dots. And so once you've got your like rhythm with your tiny little dots, it goes really well. And so everybody was like, oh, it wasn't that hard. And they always feel very accomplished, and I love that. And then I also love when I get somebody who I can't read them at the class. So we do wire wrap sea glass jewelry and like wire wrap stone jewelry, and that's one of the things that I do personally. So I teach it. And I had this husband and wife come, and I kept going, they look familiar, and I couldn't place them. And she was like, we did a craft show together. I'm a glass artist. And I was like, oh. She's like, you can only make so many worry stones out of things that don't come out of the kiln the right way. And I was like, oh. So that's why she wanted to learn how to do wire wrap. Her husband's sitting there, and he looks very anxious, and he's kind of quiet. And I'm like, is he having fun? Are they having fun? I can't really tell. Like, she's having a ball, but he's silent. And I go, are you enjoying yourself? He goes, yeah, I'm making a bug. And so he'd taken a big piece of green sea glass, and he made like little legs on it and little wings, and like he was like working it all out with the pliers in his hands. And I go, what do you do for a living? And he goes, I was an architect for 37 years. And I said, all right, like it's that side of your brain that I'm activating. You know, like we had a fairy house making class, and this big burly dad comes because it was like a kids Sunday fun day thing. The kids were into it for 10 minutes. Stepmom was into it for, let's say, a half hour. Then they all came and walked around in the shop, and Dad sat there laying lima beans like bricks on the side of this little cardboard house. And he was and I was like, what do you do for a living? He's like an engineer, and he works for EB. And so he's building this tiny little land. And they came back to the grown-up class, and they came back to another kid's class, and he made one every time. And he was like, it's like playing with thinking logs. And so I think getting grown-ups to play is sort of an exciting part of my job. Getting kids to get the parents to not fix their kids' art is my push-pull. Where it's just one mom, she was in the middle of a class, she's like, I need to go walk around in the shop. I said, yes, you do. It's okay if your kid's owl has 2 or 3 eyes. I'm not gonna
Right.
let them make their painting. Mm-hmm. It's not yours. You can pay me and you can take one too for $5. But that's been really fun because kids really get to express themselves. We did a unicorn paint party, and the mom was so nervous that the boys at the party weren't going to have fun. And so one little boy, he's like, doesn't matter what colors we use. And I put out every color, and if you don't want a pink one, you don't have a pink one. So he made an orange unicorn with a mustache, and he called it a dudicorn. And I was like, that's pretty cool. And he had a blast at this party with all these little girls, and he was the only little boy who showed up.
So what about the ladies and the wine and the painting? Yeah. Is that a big thing?
It's very popular, and it's a popular couples thing. We drag a lot of husbands get dragged and boyfriends, but they all have a good time, and often they're more talented at the end.
The guys, I think I may have had that experience.
Yeah, we did a pumpkin paint night at the Music Lady, and this one guy, he was very quiet, and I couldn't tell if he was having fun, kind of. And the wife was like, she was a pro. She's like, I've been to 6 paint nights and blah blah blah. And they got done. She's like, you can't take your picture with me. She said to him, he's like, yours is too good. We're gonna hang his up. I'm gonna tell everybody else the kids painted this one. I was like, but he was so good, and I was like, do you paint? And he goes, well, I draw. But he goes, I haven't painted since 6th grade. Mm-hmm. But it was beautiful. Mm-hmm. And his shapes had volume and shadow, and he really got into it. I was like, that's awesome.
What do people bring for wine and beer and stuff like that?
So pretty popular. I didn't realize that boxed wine came in classy boxes now. So that's pretty popular. We just did a bachelorette, and that's what they brought was boxed sangria. And I was like, oh. But often then it's also people either bring stuff from Black Pond or other craft beer, and then it's they have a flight. And they sample while they, sample while you sip. Or and then I have people who bring their cup of coffee, or whatever. And that's pretty popular too. It's sort of funny though because but then you get some classes and it's oh, you brought a to-go cup and a big ass bottle of something. And I'm like, oh, what are you making? What are you having? Oh, you're having a cocktail. Where are you going after?
Right. It's not paint and wine. It's
paint,
wine and maybe a little tiny bit of paint.
Yeah, I think that was definitely that case, and they've come back 3 or 4 times. They came to a private party, and they're a great time, and they are the rowdiest, most fun, loud group of people, and those are the people I love. And so it's they'd come to a bunch that were sold out ones, and they get 6 or 7 girlfriends together, and they have a night out. And then
that was going to be my next question. Do you have private parties?
And then they were like, can we just have our own party? And I said, sure. I think they had 13 girls come, and they painted a mermaid, and they all had a blast, and they, and then they ended up at Morrie's, and then I think then somebody was like, my husband's bartending at the Elks, and they all ended up there, whatever. They had a good time, we've had some people come to our class. We did a bookmaking class, and we'll be running that one again. We usually do it in the new year. New year, new you, make a journal. It's a fun class, and it's a lot of paper folding, but it was a husband and wife came, and he was like, and then he was he found all these little paper punches that we have that make shapes, and he was oh yeah. And I think we might be their whole social hour because they have small children. And
about you, Rena, you're so enthusiastic about what you do. You love what you do, and you're really passionate for it, and you're such a huge part of
I've had in a long time.
Killingly. You're such a huge part of Killingly, and you're so motivational and encouraging and helpful and positive, and you're just a great person to have around. So thank you so much for all that you do for Killingly.
I when I'd first opened my business, somebody had asked us about competition, right? And I was like, nobody is competition. Being creative isn't a competition. If we all have the same amount of wood, build a longer table, not a taller fence. It's just that easy. And just being a nice person will come back to you. And I fully believe that all of those seedlings I planted at every craft show of grabbing business cards and smiling and saying hello, that has come back to me tenfold. And it's when I moved to Main Street, we moved in 2 hours from Center Street to Main Street. tacks were out of the wall, holes were patched, and the floor was swept. And it was because members of the KBA showed up. People I'd met because of like the town had showed up. You know, and I put out a call on Facebook like, I've never asked anybody to help me move. You know, like I'll buy food. And like, but my friends took the whole day off to help me move my shop. And then they were like, well, now what? Like it got done so fast. And I was like, start opening boxes. We'll figure out where stuff goes. You know, I think just being a genuine person and being excited about what you do, like, I quit my job and opened a business. I don't suggest you do that by any means, but it was like, all right, this is my leaper, you know, don't leap moment. And I'm very lucky that I have a super supportive family. Like my brother's an awesome support system. You'll see him at the shop. My mom, like Mama Mason has her own hashtag on Instagram because she's at the shop all the time. You know, my dad was building us furniture and doing different stuff. He helped me make all of my displays when I like, you know, because he's a carpenter by trade. You know, I have a very supportive family. I have a very supportive friend group. And we sort of, you know, and I was like, so here's this thing I think I'm going to open a business. And my parents are like, you have no better time to do it but now. You know, I was living at home. I'm still living at home, living the dream, paying student loans, living at home. And, you know, all right, I have this great support system. And I've created this awesome, weird community of like artists and makers and people who are creative and people who aren't creative but appreciate creativity. Like Judy LaRoche, who works at the town hall, always says that. She goes, I don't have a crafty or artsy bone in my body, but I appreciate people who do. And she does. And she sends me customers. And like, that's how I got interviewed by the Huffington Post, was like, I found out they were coming to town and I found out who was giving them the tour.
Oh, cool.
And I like, I was like,
it's good to know Elsie and Judy LaRoche.
Well, I was like, oh, well, you're going to breakfast at Zips and then you're going to Logie's. What are you doing in between? Because I'm right in the middle. And I'll be open. And like, I had 15 minutes with this lady from Huffington Post and I made her write up. And like, her son's an artist and he's going to art school. And so she was like, I get it, you know? Like, and my mom has always said, like, if you have creative children, you have messy children. And that is 100% true. Because I have two types of clothing. Clothing with paint on them and clothing that shouldn't get paint on them. But that's like, and I just sort of like let that be my life. And so, you know, building the shop has been, I don't know, the most exciting thing I've ever done. And it's a great time. And we like people to come and have a good time. And whether that's like, we have a little old lady, like she walks by every day with her dog and she'll pop in and we chat. I think she's bought maybe 2 things in 4 years. Whatever. I enjoy like that, you know.
The community. People just come down and say hi.
People who say hi, like, you know, feeling like it's Cheers in little downtown Danielson. You know, I kind of like that feeling. So
let's let everybody know, like, if they want to get more information, if they want to be part of that community, and if they want to like have their stuff available here at Tunk City Revival. I know we said it already in the beginning, but let's do it again at the end with all your contact information.
Awesome, yeah. You can reach me by phone at 860-382-3635. That's the best way to get a hold of me if you want to like book a party or a private event, honestly, is just give me a buzz. Then the Facebook page and the Instagram page, you can comment or send us a message through either of those. And that works really well if you're an artist because you probably already have pictures up there. And then we can look at your stuff and I can give you our opinion. We're always looking for new vendors. I will say we've turned away a few people, but not many. And so like I'm very open to the idea of whatever your handmade thing is. And so we're always looking for that. We have awesome things coming up for vendors like that come with your being a booth member. Like you get access to, we give you features on our Instagram page and our Facebook page and all that stuff. And those are the best ways to get a hold of us, which is Facebook /Tunk City Revival, all one word, TUNKCITYEREVIVAL. All one word. And then if you are looking for kids classes, or maybe you want to give your child private art lessons, or you want to buy the gift of crafting with your kid for Christmas, like it's a great gift certificate type of thing to do. You can contact us there. But if you follow our Facebook group, which is Tunk City Kids Art Club, if you type in like Kids Art Club, it pops up on Facebook. Join the group and you'll see all the kids stuff we do. And I also share like videos that I find of kids crafts. I shared that god awful like Slime After Slime song because it was like every parent's life that they've come in like, oh my God, there's no Tupperware left in my house and all the glitter is gone. But like that's how you can get a hold of us. Best way is Facebook or phone, or shoot us an email. Shoot me an email at rena.tunkcityrevival@gmail.com, and that's all on our Facebook page. So if you like and share our Facebook page, you'll see all of our stuff because you'll create that algorithm where we're in your top 3% of things that you share. So you'll see it all the time, which is good for us and it's good for you. But yeah, if you're looking to do a private party or a special event, we can come to you. We do private home events. We travel. We go to bars. We do fundraisers. Like, if you name it, we can try to do it. I try to put ourselves out for almost anything. So.
Well, that's excellent. You've been, I think, possibly the longest. It's 1 hour and 22 minutes. Jesus. And I think the most I've ever done is an hour and a half, but it might have been an hour and 26. So, like, by the time we're done with this, this might be the longest podcast I've ever done. But I have to say, you are also one of the most enthusiastic people that I've ever interviewed, which Rick Dwanzik was the other one. That was really long, and he owns Antiques Marketplace in Putnam.
If you love what you do, you're an excited person.
Mm-hmm.
And, people can tell. And that was the first thing, I think the first KBA meeting I went to, Peter Deary was like, well, you're a hard act to follow. And I was like, well, thanks. I own a tiny shop on Center Street. Get people to know you. And I think that's what people see when they walk in the shop, whether it's me or my mom's, her tagline is I'll tell you about it or I'll make up a story. And people love that, but it's definitely the funniest thing. But awesome.
Yeah, this is it's been a fun time, Rena. Thank you so much. And you've definitely added a lot to downtown Danielson. And I have to say, it makes it a fun place to come. So people can go to Tunk City Revival and walk around and see all of this stuff. And then they can walk down the street and go to Heart and Home and see all of that stuff over there. Then there's a place over on Westcott Road, Articles, which is great too. If you want to get the trifecta.
I did my own Christmas shopping last year, because I always joke I'm those Christmas Eve people. That's me. Mm-hmm. Because I work in retail. And
Procrastinator.
Yeah. So when did I do my Christmas shopping? 2 days before Christmas. Mm-hmm. I had my friend's daughter babysit the store, and I went and did my Christmas shopping. And what do you get your 90-year-old grandmother? She doesn't need anything, but she I got to get her something. And I couldn't find anything. I ended up at Articles, and I found a whole bunch of little fun, cute things that I don't carry. Lynn sends us customers, and we send her customers, and some of our artists are her artists also, and so that's it's a beautiful relationship, and you don't get that in a big town. That's why I love being in this little tiny, small town. I don't know, the quiet corner isn't so quiet. It's because I'm a loudmouth and I love my town.
Mm-hmm. It is actually fun, though. I mean, you can come to downtown Danielson, go to Heart and Home, go to Trinket Shop, go to Tunk City Revival, go to Articles up the street here. And I'm trying to think of other stores that would kind of fall into line with those types of stores. But those are you got Amazing Animals next door, which is always fun to walk through and look at all the pets and stuff. But I think that probably covers it that I can think of off the top of my head. But anyway, let's close this out because I'm pretty sure that this is pretty sure this is the maximum length podcast of all time for the Real Deal Business Podcast. All right, so thank you so much, Rena.
Yes,
I appreciate you being on the podcast. And if anybody has any interest in selling or buying real estate, you can always give me a call. I'm Anthony Chabot from Anthony Chabot from Chabot and Associates Real Estate Group of Keller Williams, and I do commercial, residential, rentals, office and retail space, and all kinds of other things. I also have a real estate meetup every first Wednesday of the month on the second floor of Victoria Station Cafe from 6 to 8 p.m. And we're also in the process of starting a commercial one specifically because the first Wednesdays on the second floor of Victoria Station Cafe seems to have become primarily residential. But anybody's welcome. Commercial, residential, industrial, technology park, you name it. You're welcome to stop in and introduce yourself. Mortgage brokers, contractors, realtors, appraisers, inspectors, you name it. You're welcome to stop by and check that out. For more information, please give me a call at 508-847-0902 and visit ChabotandAssociates.com. That's ChabotandAssociates.com. Thanks so much for listening, everybody, and we'll see you next time.